Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Marcus Vargas, and welcome to yet another episode. Today's show, as always, is packed for you guys. Not too much with fantasy football, but a lot of interesting topics. Now, they're just so interesting. I don't even know what to start with today, but I guess I will start talking about America's favorite team. Why not? Okay, so if you guys have been keeping up with the news in the NFL, not that there's much recently, but you may have known that Cowboys and also Texans players tested positive for the coronavirus. Okay, so the reason why I want to talk about this is because, and I was, taking a little jab at the, Dallas Cowboys, and even though the Houston Texans also have players that have tested positive, and it's actually, when it boils down to it, it's actually not funny. It's, it's a very serious matter. However, it's just very interesting to note that running back Ezekiel Elliot, who was at that party that Dak Prescott threw a ways back, has tested positive, and it just goes to show you that, and we don't know how he got it right at this point in time. But what are we going to assume? We're going to assume that he wasn't being responsible, and that this could have been prevented, and now other people are at risk because of irresponsibility, and it's just a terrible look. I said it back then when the video, or was it a little video? Yeah. When all that stuff leaked on TMZ, that, this was a bad look. They should be the role models and examples, just how, they should be, they are role models now. Athletes are role models now with all the, the civil protests that are going on. They should be, or they should have been, role models with the pandemic. It sucks. I really did not want something like this to happen because, I'm really, I need this football season, you know what I mean? I need some sports in my life again, and so I was hoping that this sort of thing wouldn't happen, and that all these players would be taking extreme precaution or caution, because I don't want the NFL to get paranoid, right? Because yes, of course, all these players have gotten diagnosed now; they'll be cleared for sure. The virus will be out of their system, of course, by the time the season starts, but they could, they also are just contributing to the spread. And, people have talked about a second wave of coronavirus, and though we haven't seen that yet, it's, who are we to say, that it won't happen, right? So at this point, I'm still treating it like it's March, because I know that the vibe, I guess I shouldn't say the vibe, the attitude toward coronavirus has really settled down, especially because of, the recent protests and the movement that's going on, which is also very, very important. But you can't help but feel like people have certainly just forgotten about coronavirus, right? I don't think I'd be wrong in stating that. Definitely feels like coronavirus and the pandemic's not really a thing anymore, even though it really, really is. This is very concerning, though. I really don't want, any more athletes to, come up testing positive, because now, it sort of feels like that resurgence is sort of happening. When you see something like that, when you see celebrities, when you see big figures, get this pandemic, back when it first started, and, Tom Hanks and his wife had it, and they shared that with the world, that was insane. It felt huge because you feel like celebrities, athletes, big figures, they're invincible to illness. You feel like they have the cure to everything. They have the cure to stay looking young. They have the cure to aging. They're always fit. Celebrities always have it right. And to see, a bunch of celebrities getting the virus, it is scary, and it is pretty crazy. And so now we see this happening, and it does cause some paranoia. I'd be lying if I told you it didn't bother me and worry me about the season start. Now, I also want to talk about Ezekiel Elliott's response on Twitter, because I thought that was pretty interesting. He literally just says HIPAA ? Now, HIPAA's privacy rule prevents the disclosure of medical information without patient approval. But that only applies to healthcare providers. So someone leaked this information that technically didn't fall under the restrictions of HIPAA, and now the whole world knows about it. Now, another thing that what I wanted to add was that it just felt like he didn't want people to know because he would be embarrassed. When he's like HIPAA, hello. That's kind of the vibe I got from his tweet. It was like, oh my goodness, now the whole world knows that I've contracted the coronavirus. Now I'm going to get clowned for it because I was at that party and I'm never going to live this down. And that's exactly what's happening. And that's exactly kind of what he deserves for going to that party back then when he knew that he shouldn't have been. So just a very, very interesting scenario. I chuckle just because, of course, it's the Cowboys. And yes, a few Houston Texans have also tested positive, but we don't know who they are yet, or as of right now, at least, I don't know off the top of my head. But we do know Ezekiel Elliot has contracted the coronavirus. Now, no one knows if these players have been to the training facilities. Apparently, none of the Cowboys players had been at the team's facility, and apparently, everyone's staying in contact with the players and all the medical staff. They're all basically keeping track of that, which is good. It's actually good to see that they're staying on top of it really seriously. Apparently Zeke is feeling fine, and other players have been asymptomatic, so that's good. Well, it's not good, but it's nice to know that they're not having serious complications with it. The fact that some people are asymptomatic is what's made this pretty crazy, because you're sitting there thinking, I'm fine. I don't have the coronavirus. I'm chilling. You go out, you're doing things, carrying on like you would normally, not as cautious, not as paranoid, and you're spreading it. So that is scary. So hopefully the spread wasn't that bad, and a lot of these players didn't come in contact with many more players, because I know that there are a lot of people out there right now who came in contact with these players who are getting tested, who are very paranoid, who are scared, and it's just not a good time. So unfortunately, this happened. I'm glad they caught it, though. I'm glad they caught it when they did. I'm glad, these players this wasn't during training camp, or these players weren't, at their team's facilities or anything like that, because that would be very, very bad, like I said before, and like I'll keep saying, we really need sports in a time like this. And I think, recently the NBA has discussed opening back up. The MLB, of course, now they're having problems with it. But recently, there were talks about that season coming back and playing a shortened season, blah, 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 with the salaries. They're having issues with that. And now, their commissioner has said, he doesn't know if, that's going to be 100%, even though just a week ago, he was like, I'm 100% confident this MLB season is going to happen. Right. And so things are really just changing at the drop of a hat. And that really sucks. Right. Because, we want something to be stable at this point in time. We can't even go to the movies. You can't go to the mall. And I'm not saying, oh my goodness, I just want to get out there and rush this back. But it does weigh on people. When you can't live your normal life for this long, it does weigh on people. And I'm not saying, go out there and protest, these restrictions and stay-at-home orders and quarantine orders, but I will acknowledge the fact that it is draining on people. It is emotionally and not physically, it is emotionally exhausting, to constantly be in your house and not be able to do anything. So, just like you guys, I want this to finally be over. I want to open my ESPN app in the morning, get ready for fantasy football at 1 o'clock kickoff, set my lineups, get that excitement of the first game of the season. Again, I need that in my bones. I need that in my system. So please To all my athletes, to all my people listening right now, please stay safe. Please practice social distancing. Please stay home if you, don't go out unless you have to. And then together, like I've said this whole time, together we can end this thing. We can definitely make a difference, more than you think, because one person can make a huge difference infecting a ton of people, right? So you staying inside can help a ton of people not catch the virus as well. So that is what we opened up with. Right after this, we're going to talk about some Colin Kaepernick. We did talk about him before, but we're going to touch on him again. Maybe talk about some teams who might be interested in signing him. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back after this short break.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Released a list of 8 teams, who might be interested in signing the former 49ers quarterback, Colin Kaepernick. Now, I wanted to go over this list and give my thoughts and opinions on it, because it's definitely one that's very, very interesting. Now, before I even get into it, I want to add, my opinion, of course, on the whole Colin Kaepernick situation is that, he was done wrong. The NFL needs to do right by him. They need to help him in any way they can. I don't know how they do that at this point. I don't know, what they need to do. I don't know what that looks like because, if he gets signed to a team, it feels like it's for pity. And, it's just weird, the timing of it all, right? You're just like, oh, you were right the whole time. Let's put you on a team. And then you just basically admit guilt that whole time, right? So I don't know what's going to happen, but he should be on a team. He should have been years ago. All right, let's get into this list. Now, this is, of course, speculation. We don't know if we'll ever see Colin Kaepernick in uniform again or if he'll ever throw the football on an NFL team, but this list is kind of interesting. At number 1 here, they have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, their first and foremost reason, Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, who basically, gave Colin Kaepernick his start with the 49ers and helped him burst onto the scene. He's right now doing the same thing with Lamar Jackson, and they're very, very, very productive. I mean, we all did watch the NFL last season, and, he was MVP under Greg Roman. Now, the only reason I don't like this is because the Ravens already have Robert Griffin III. To me, they're very, very similar quarterbacks, and to me, it just feels like at this point, because for what they need, I feel like Kaepernick would come in. They want an athletic backup who can sort of mimic some of the stuff that Lamar Jackson does without being exactly Lamar Jackson, right? Because there's no other Lamar Jackson out there right now. Kaepernick to me would, just be a big name. Now, one reason I do like this is because the Ravens were tied to Kaepernick before, and apparently, back then they were close to signing him. There were some, controversial comments made, by someone that might have made that fall through. But the feeling was that they wanted to sign him, and John Harbaugh still wanted to sign him. Of course, we do know he did play for Jim Harbaugh. There's that connection there. The family ties, they saw him in the Super Bowl. They saw, how, good of a player he was. Now, still don't think this is going to happen. But if the Baltimore Ravens want to make a splash move, they want to be sort of the heroes. Because I think at this point, honestly, yes, a lot of people are going to be like, hey, you just feel bad for Colin Kaepernick, so you're doing it for the press attention. But the Baltimore Ravens were a team that showed interest in Colin Kaepernick already, right? And so it wouldn't seem as, for press or gimmicky from them. So this is actually, I agree with this at number 1 here. I like this a lot. Maybe for reasons other than what he states, because of course the offensive coordinator is great. The style of offense they play, he can play in. But, I think it's more so because they already had a connection there, and the bonus is that the system fits well, right? Because it feels like now the team that Colin Kaepernick goes to, he's certainly not going to play on. At least he'll be the backup for the next season. I'm not sure how quickly he becomes a starter again, or if he ever does. Now, number 2 here, the Houston Texans. Now, I really don't know how to feel about this. Again, on all of these teams, Colin Kaepernick is joining to be the backup. Now, A.J. McCarron is the backup right now. Not, a big name that anyone really cares about. But I think, the reasons he gives here are quite interesting. He says, more than that, just about every prominent leader on this team, from Bill O'Brien to Deshaun Watson to J.J. Watt, has been explicit in their advocacy for social justice, with O'Brien himself set to follow in Cap's footsteps and kneel during the national anthem this season. O'Brien's reportedly already gotten pitches from Justin Reed about signing his brother, Eric, another one of the original protesters. Why couldn't Cap be next, especially considering his upside as a situational runner and or Watson backup? I actually like this reasoning better than I like the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, of course, the connection is there, so of course it's a stronger, better fit. But to me, it feels like, being on a team that accepts him outright. They've said it outright. A lot of the big names on the team, the coach as well, has said literally he's going to kneel himself with his players. I think that's a big help too, because, wherever Colin Kaepernick goes, he's going to want to feel accepted in that locker room, right? You don't want to go to a team that denounced you and then all of a sudden they feel bad. So they're signing you. I think this would be a good signing. I like what he says about being, that sort of second punch behind Deshaun Watson. Do I think they would use him much? No. But should Deshaun Watson get hurt, we did see him get hurt before, which is why I'm mentioning that. Having Colin Kaepernick as a backup would be very, very helpful. So I do like the Texans here at number 2. Now, number 3 here definitely feels like a long shot, which is what he mentions here. Oh, by the way, the writer is Cody Benjamin. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this one really doesn't make sense to me because they just got rid of Nick Foles. It seems like Gardner Minshew's the guy. I don't think they're going to want to bring in a guy, to cause some sort of competition in the quarterback room, especially not a big name like Colin Kaepernick right now. Not that he's a big name based on his skill, but right now he's a big name in the NFL. So I don't think this is wise. Don't even see this becoming close to happening. They literally just let go of a quarterback that was pretty good, that they thought they wanted as a starter. They got Gardner Minshew. The Minshew magic is real. Minshew mania is happening. So this, to me, really doesn't make any sense. Yes, of course, Minshew is not, elite right now, and so Kaepernick would have a solid chance to become the starter, but I don't know how I feel about this. So, yeah, I don't like that. Jacksonville Jaguars number 3, yeah, not the best. Okay, this one here, interesting. Number 4, Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he starts off, by saying, who better to shepherd Kaepernick on his transition back to the NFL than Andy Reid, who's never shied away from polarizing QB moves and happens to have a Super Bowl winning supporting cast. With a Lombardi trophy under his belt and the NFL's best young QB in tow and Patrick Mahomes, Reid can afford to dabble at the backup spot. Very, very interesting. The reason why I do like this is because our backup right now is Chad Henne, and I think definitely like Kaepernick better than Chad Henne. He would also provide some competition for Jordan Ta'amu, who we signed from the XFL. Now, another reason he does add is that how outspoken Mahomes has been against social injustice and how, he's been all for it, standing in solidarity, all for equality. So I like that reason too. And it feels like Patrick Mahomes would certainly be accepting of Colin Kaepernick. He knows his job's not in trouble. MVP, Super Bowl MVP, 5,050, one of the only QBs to ever do it. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. That man's going to have a starting job probably his entire career. I like this here at number 4. Do I think it's going to happen? Maybe. Maybe Andy Reid, he's been outspoken as well about this situation. He's had some very interesting quotes about equality and things that are going on now supporting the movement. So, this could be a very interesting move, and I think, hey, why not? Why not have that depth? Someone who can be a dynamic playmaker behind Pat Mahomes rather than just having the, everyday typical pocket passing backup, right? So very, very interesting. 5, Los Angeles Chargers. Not a chance. Not a chance because Tyrod Taylor is, the starter. They just got Justin Herbert. I really don't think that it would make any sense. It wouldn't make it. It would, it'd be Justin Herbert, Tyrod Taylor, and Colin Kaepernick as QB 1, 2, and 3. That bothers me. What are you going to sign Colin Kaepernick for to make him your QB 3? I want him to go to a team where he actually might have a chance to play, might have a chance to see some playing time. So this one I don't like for that reason, and 2, because it just doesn't make sense for them. They are moving forward, getting their quarterback of the future. It makes no sense to bring Colin Kaepernick in. I know, Anthony Lynn, their coach, would definitely, like he mentions here, would definitely be on board with it from an off-field perspective. But, other than that, it doesn't make sense at the end of the day. Number 6 here, the Minnesota Vikings. Like the Jags, he says, they're probably unlikely suitors just because of how Mike Zimmer tends to keep a tight ship. But ownership and the front office are also pretty serious about recommitting to the social justice fight. Now they are in Minneapolis. They pledged $5 million to various causes and giving a voice to player leaders like Eric Kendricks who supported protests. From a football standpoint, they're an incredibly logical fit as a run-based, play-action-heavy offense without a rock-solid backup for Kirk Cousins. Very good point. Throw in the connection to the recent Minneapolis tragedy. Oh, as I just mentioned. And there's a reason former NFL spokesman Joe Lockhart suggested the Vikings make this happen. This would be very, very interesting. You'd be putting Colin Kaepernick, in the heart of where this whole movement started. It seems right. And Kirk Cousins has a backup that we know about. I couldn't even tell you the Minnesota Vikings backup quarterback right now off the top of my head. Not that I could do that with many other teams, but I really have no clue for this team. I like this one here. I like this one. Definitely better than the Jaguars. Definitely better than the Los Angeles Chargers. For some reason, this was ranked a bit lower. Now, the last 2 we'll just blaze through here. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Tennessee Titans. The Philadelphia Eagles makes no sense. Honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't understand why you would put this here. They just drafted Jalen Hurts. They have Carson Wentz. I understand that Carson Wentz could get hurt, but that's why they drafted Jalen Hurts. They still have, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Nate Sudfeld, and to me, it doesn't make any sense. Besides the, the political aspect of it, I don't like this here. They got Jalen Hurts to be the new toy, the new gadget guy, so it wouldn't make sense to go get Kaepernick at this point in time. Had they not gotten Jalen Hurts? Maybe. Tennessee Titans. All right, he says, team leadership, including ownership and QB Ryan Tannehill, have been talking up renewed action in the social justice movement. And more than that, Mike Vrabel might prefer having someone other than Logan Woodside, don't even know who that is, as his backup. Okay. He said the Titans saw the value of a veteran number 2 in 2019, and Kaepernick seems like the ideal play-action backup for their offense. This could be very, very interesting just because Ryan Tannehill might have had the flukiest season ever. Ryan Tannehill could go back to Miami Dolphins Ryan Tannehill and just be average, and Colin Kaepernick could really get a shot here. So I actually like this Tennessee Titans move right here. Also because Kaepernick would fit the scheme. It'd be Derrick Henry's team anyway, like he states here. He wouldn't have to do much. He'd just have to be as good as Ryan Tannehill was last season. Now, he was awesome, but I don't know if Ryan Tannehill is going to keep that up over a full 16 games as he starter. So we'll have to see what happens, but I think Colin Kaepernick with the Titans there, that could be very, very cool. So that's it for the list. I do want to finish off by saying Colin Kaepernick should for sure have a spot in the NFL, and if he ever does, we'll definitely be talking about some fantasy implications should he ever get the start. So that'd be very, very interesting, and it would definitely be refreshing to talk about. So with that, guys, we'll go into our short break, and when we get back, we'll talk about some interesting rankings for top QBs that the NFL.com put out recently. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back after this short break.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info. Podcast. Right now, I want to get into another article and give my opinions on this because this list is very, very interesting. Now, this list here is NFL.com's top 10 quarterbacks for the 2020 NFL season. In the title, actually, the biggest shocker is actually laid out. It's actually ranking top 10 QBs for 2020 NFL season. Aaron Rodgers misses cut. Matthew Stafford poised for a career year. This is by Sean Wagner McGuff. In a league loaded with elite quarterbacks, these 10 signal callers are set to have huge seasons in 2020. Okay, let's see this thing. All right. Let's just get right into the list. He has, whole intro, talking about all these big quarterbacks, big names, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. All these young guys are, already uprooting the old people. Tom Brady's not the best quarterback anymore. Aaron Rodgers, he's no longer the most physically gifted. And Matt Ryan's not a top 10 quarterback. Okay. At number 10 here, he has Steelers' Big Ben Roethlisberger. Already losing me with this list. I'm just going to be honest here. How on earth can you justify at this point in time? Of course, with these predictions, you look like an idiot until it comes true, right? And then you look like a genius. But at this point in time, Big Ben Roethlisberger, coming off of a major elbow surgery at the age of 38 years old, how you can rank him above Aaron Rodgers blows my mind. Now, I understand, back when we did see Big Ben, he threw over 5,000 yards the same season that Pat Mahomes threw over 5,000 yards. I think he actually led the league in yards. He had more than Mahomes. Not by much, but he had more. He had 34 touchdowns, 16 picks, and a 96.5 passer rating. He ranked 8th in DVOA and 4th in total QBR. Now, check this out. Did we forget that that's when he had Antonio Brown as well? He's coming back now to only Juju Smith-Schuster. He doesn't have Le'Veon Bell. James Conner did not have the same year he had when Big Ben was there. He's basically coming to a kind of a whole different team. So, I really don't agree with this here. I don't see at this point in time. I'd take Big Ben at 11 or 12, but I think I would put Aaron Rodgers at number 10. I just don't see how Aaron Rodgers right here is not a top 10 quarterback. Okay, next person on the list here. This is just so interesting because, in the beginning he's talking about how, these young guys are all uprooting all the oldies and all that. And then the first two are the oldest quarterbacks. Number 9 here, guys, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I just think that's really, really interesting because Tom Brady last season was just not good. And I think, we all know that. It's not all his fault. He was okay. I will give him that. He was okay. But Tom Brady, honestly,
even though, yes, 4,057 yards, his lowest since Deflategate, 24 touchdowns, his lowest since he tore his ACL, 8 picks, and his 88.0 passer rating, lowest since 2013, he's still above average. Because 4,557 yards, 24 TDs, okay, the TDs, that number is low, but his offense was very, very bad. Now, the only reason I can give this guy for putting Tom Brady in the top 10 is because of the offense that he has. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, OJ Howard, Cameron Brate. Now, it's interesting to me because most of the reason that this quarterback is in the top 10 quarterbacks list is not because of how good of a quarterback he is, it's because of how good his supporting cast is. Interesting. I'm not saying I completely disagree with this, but again, would I take right now Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough choice, but I just don't see how Tom Brady can be in the top 10, but not Aaron Rodgers at this point in time. I know, I think the problem is, with a lot of these rankings, they look at career. You're talking about 2020 top quarterbacks, not who are the best quarterbacks ever. So you kind of, you can't just look at what they've done their entire careers. You got to take it for what they've done very recently. And so this guy clearly might not be doing that. Okay, number 8, he has the Eagles' Carson Wentz. He says Wentz can certainly relate to Brady's plight in 2019. Like Brady, Wentz didn't get much help. No, I will say this. Man, Carson Wentz doesn't get enough credit. He took the Eagles to the playoffs with no help. I'm sorry, no help. You can say all you want about Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. They at least have top dogs, at least one, right? How long has he had Julian Edelman? Danny Amendola was clutching in the playoffs. Tom Brady has always had Rob Gronkowski. He even had Randy Moss at one point. He's always had Wes Welker. You know what I mean? People don't think of these guys as the best receivers ever. Not Randy Moss, of course. We clearly think of him as one of the best. But they always consistently have weapons. Greg Ward, Mac Hollins, who are they? Right? The team's top two leading pass catchers were tight ends Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert's a backup, and he was in the top 2 in leading pass catchers, so that's pretty insane. Alshon Jeffrey, yes, he's a solid receiver, but he missed so many games. He only had 490 yards. It didn't even matter. Carson Wentz here at number 8. I agree he's a top 10 quarterback next season. Number 8 might be a little low, but let's keep going and read on. I certainly would take him over Aaron Rodgers next season. Okay. Number 7, look at this guy. Okay, I like this because I've talked about this guy for fantasy football, Matthew Stafford. All right, he says it continues to fly under the radar that Stafford was on pace to throw for 4,998 yards, 38 TDs, and 10 interceptions in 2019 before an injury ended his season. See, guys, I'm telling you, Matthew Stafford, huge sleeper pick, might win you your league. Stafford ranks 2nd in touchdown passes, 4th in yards per attempt, 5th in passer rating, 3rd in DYAR, 5th in DVOA, and 7th in total QBR. Man, this is very, very interesting. I think Matthew Stafford he's in line for a big, big season. Kenny Golladay, they're calling him Baby Megatron. Marvin Jones is still good. TJ Hawkinson, while he didn't have the craziest rookie year, it's year 2. He'll take a step forward, and he'll have Matt Stafford throwing to him, and not Jeff Driscoll. Was it Jeff Driscoll? No, it wasn't Jeff Driscoll. I'm blanking on the quarterback's name that they had. Sorry, no disrespect to you. You're an NFL quarterback, so you have talent. Forgive me. I just don't watch many Detroit Lions games. All right, hopefully he stays healthy. He'll definitely be a top 10 quarterback. I agree with this pick here. At number 6, not even top 5, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is clearly a top 10 quarterback. But, okay, I understand here. He lost DeAndre Hopkins. Okay. But does it lower him on the tier behind Dak Prescott? I just got to get to that. Number 5, Dak Prescott. Number 6, Deshaun Watson. Are you telling me, I think if I had to bet, I would say Deshaun Watson might have a better year than Dak Prescott. He's a better quarterback. He's more dynamic. I understand what happened last season with Dak Prescott. I understand, but so many of those games, they were playing from behind, and that's why he had so many yards and stats. So to me right now, if you ask any GM if you'd rather roll with Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott, I feel like the vast majority of them would clearly take Deshaun Watson. But that's just me. So right here, I think you should flip-flop. Dak Prescott is not a top 5 quarterback. Whatever. Number 4, he has the Saints' Drew Brees. Okay, I have no problem with that because Drew Brees is exceptional. He's great. If it wasn't for his thumb injury, he would have had a full great season again. People probably would have been talking about him as an MVP because he came back and he was performing great after he had injured his thumb and he was playing like he never left. It was pretty insane. He actually matched some people's touchdowns who played a full season. I think he missed, 6 games? Something like that? 4 to 6 games off the top of my head. So yes, I like this here. Drew Brees right outside of the top 3. And the top 3 is very easy. I like it. He has Russell Wilson at 3, Lamar Jackson at 2, and of course, the reigning, defending Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes II. I like it a lot. I do like the top 3. Sorry, Dak Prescott in the top 5 to me is pretty insane. And if I had to say, for fantasy football how this would go, to me, I feel, Mahomes, Lamar, Russell Wilson. I would actually put Deshaun Watson maybe 4 because of his mobility. Drew Brees at 5, Dak Prescott at 7, Matthew Stafford at 6, Carson Wentz at 8. Yes, I put Dak Prescott above Carson Wentz for fantasy football's sake just because still doesn't have much wide receiver help, and I think Dak Prescott will have more opportunities to shine because they have Ezekiel Elliot. Teams focus on him a lot as well. And then the rest are fine with Tom Brady and Big Ben. But Aaron Rodgers getting no love here. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he'd be tied for 10th, with Big Ben Roethlisberger. It's pretty disrespectful to say Big Ben coming off a major elbow surgery and being 38 years old is going to be better than Aaron Rodgers. But it is what it is. Take it how you will. I thought it was very, very interesting. So with that, guys, we are out of time here. So let's get into a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. We just got done talking about this QB ranking list that was put out on NFL.com, the top 10 quarterbacks for 2020. Now I want to keep talking about quarterbacks here. I want to give a list of quarterbacks who I think are under the most pressure for next season. And it's interesting. I got the inspiration for this topic off of an article that was talking about top 10 QBs performing under pressure, like pass rush pressure. And then I started to think to myself, it'd be interesting, to think of what quarterbacks have the most pressure, metaphorically, that emotional pressure. And so I got to thinking, and I think it's pretty clear here, at least in my opinion, that the quarterback next season with probably the most pressure is not the reigning, defending Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes. But in fact, probably his biggest rival right now, or his biggest, counterpart in the AFC, Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson, the reason I say this is because Lamar Jackson has been absolutely dynamite, right? Even in his first season, he was electrifying. Of course, we didn't see him, throughout the full season. And, it wasn't his team fully yet. Didn't unleash him fully. But last season was fireworks, right? Every time they went out there on the field. So, he is rewriting what it means to be a quarterback and what it means to be a dual threat quarterback. He set the single season record for, rushing. He was amazing, dynamic playmaking. But his playoff success, that's where he struggles. And I think because of that, he has a ton of pressure. I was going to say a lot, but I'm going to say a ton of pressure on his shoulders to do well in the playoffs, to get a win, to make a deep playoff push. I know for him it's Super Bowl win or bust, but I think he needs to make a Super Bowl appearance very, very soon, because if not now, then when? Right? Because that defense is solid. He can't even blame, Patrick Mahomes, when he went to the AFC Championship game, you could blame that defense. 3 3rd and 10s, so many unnecessary penalties. D Ford lines up offsides. He doesn't jump. He lines up offsides and ruins a Super Bowl trip, possibly Mahomes having 2 Super Bowls, because I honestly believe that the Chiefs would have beaten the Rams in that Super Bowl. I know they lost the huge shootout, but, we saw... that was the year we saw Todd Gurley slowing down. He had the injuries. C.J. Anderson was in, and then they laid an egg in this Super Bowl. It was horrible. Most boring Super Bowl ever. But anyway, back to Lamar Jackson. He just hasn't shown success in the playoffs. He's actually shown, mediocrity in the playoffs, and it's really weighing on him, and it's really tarnishing the sort of, the amazing things he's doing in the regular season. Because yes, that's all cool and all, but when, the rubber meets the road, he ain't getting it done. So, I think he for sure has the most pressure on his shoulders in 2020 to do big, big things. I know he did all the stat stuff, but now we need some stuff in the trophy case, right? Okay. Number 2, another elite guy in his last year, Drew Brees. Now, I picked Drew Brees because, my goodness, they have been so close. They get to the playoffs all the time, and it seems that the refs hate them, the NFL hates them, the world hates them, and they just can't seem to get over the hump, and something happens, right? Last year, Drew Brees chose the worst day to have a bad game. The year before that, we know the worst no call in the history of the NFL. And the year before that, the Minneapolis Miracle. It seems that the Saints are cursed, honestly. And so I think, with it being Drew Brees' last year, I say he's under a bunch of pressure because I don't agree with this, but because so many people put so much weight on these Super Bowl wins, for your legacy, that, he has a ton of pressure on him to win another so that he's not a 1 Super Bowl, because there's people that have, to me, 1 Super Bowl is enough, right? But some people have he won 1. He's not in this echelon of guys that have won multiple. When it's just weird because, he's not the only guy on the team, right? Say I'm this amazing quarterback. I take my team to the Super Bowl every single year. But every year, they allow 50 points, and I score 45 every time. They allow 50 points, and they just blow coverage every time to lose the game. Does that make me not a legendary quarterback? I have amazing stats. I take my team to the Super Bowl, and I just always get let down by someone on the other side of the ball, or special teams, or defense, one way or another, right? So, the pressure is on Drew Brees for that reason. Also, he wants one. He wants another one. He needs another one. It's his last season. I would love to see him get one. He has all these records, and to have another Super Bowl, to have that, 2 Super Bowls, be put in that extra echelon, that higher echelon would be very, very cool for him. He has Michael Thomas. He has the weapons necessary. Alvin Kamara. He can do it. It's just a matter of going out there and doing it at this point, right? So I think the pressure is certainly on for Drew Brees and the whole Saints crew. Sean Payton as well. They need to get it done. And for number 3 here, this might be my last one actually that I want to talk about. Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has to defend that Super Bowl title. Patrick Mahomes has to show what he can do again with a full season. Now, excuse me, we know he's not going to repeat 50 and 5,000, right? That's really, really hard. But if he does, we wouldn't be surprised. I think there's pressure on him just because, there's pressure on every defending Super Bowl champ. It's that pressure, right? And you don't want to have that Super Bowl hangover. You don't want to suck for many, many years after making a Super Bowl run. Sorry, Eagles fans. Not that you suck, but you just haven't, been what you were. And I think there's a lot of pressure to keep up, that high-powered offense, the fireworks show, and that can be draining. You know what I mean? We saw it happen to the Golden State Warriors. There is such thing as championship fatigue. So, just keeping the foot on the gas, doing what he does, constantly making the plays, constantly making the throws, carrying his team. There is a ton of pressure on him to keep performing because he is under a microscope, as a lot of young, elite NFL quarterbacks are. So there certainly is a ton of pressure there. He definitely is one who can handle it, though. And actually, I want to add one more. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is under pressure, not by anything that he could, control. But there's another quarterback, and he's a-coming, and his name is Jordan Love. A lot of people have compared him to Patrick Mahomes with his, dynamic playmaking ability, his throws on the run, his arm talent, and, it's just deja vu for Aaron Rodgers at this point. He was once Jordan Love, and I think, Aaron Rodgers is certainly going to feel the pressure. He has to play very, very well to make sure that his spot as the Green Bay Packers franchise guy and quarterback and leader is secure. Unfortunately so. It's definitely sooner than we all expected, but he's certainly going to have a lot of pressure, and also for reasons similar to Drew Brees. He's only won one Super Bowl, but he's an immense talent. So people want to see him win more, right? And for some reason, they blame the quarterback when the defense goes out there and stinks it up. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, in multiple NFC Championship games, has had his defense allow, I think it's in 40 points in his last 3 NFC Championship games or something like that. His defense has averaged that allowed. It's like, what do you want him to do? He's not Superman, no quarterback is immortal. You can't go out there and score 40 points every single game, but you can ask your defense not to allow it in the biggest games of the season, right? So I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers, but he has a ton of pressure on his shoulders next season. All right, guys, with that, let's get into our break, and when we get back, more quarterback talk. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back after this short break.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Guys, welcome back to the show. Keeping true to the whole quarterback theme we have going today, that actually wasn't planned. Let's keep talking quarterbacks. There's another article that was recently put out. Actually, it was yesterday. That it was about the 8 NFL divisions by quarterback. They ranked them, right, on NFL.com, and this one, I got to give my take on this. Okay, number 1 here, he has as the most difficult division the most stacked quarterback division, I guess you could say, as the NFC South. I mean, is the Brady hype really that ridiculous? Okay, that's the division with Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady. Well, according to another article released on NFL.com, Matt Ryan's no longer a top 10 guy. Teddy Bridgewater is nowhere near the top 10. Drew Brees was in the top 5, but Tom Brady was at number 9. So, how on earth, is that the hardest division in football? I think the NFC West by far takes it. He has them here at number 2. Kyler Murray is going to explode onto the scene as he did already. He's going to take a step forward. Jared Goff is the $100+ million man that people were raving about. And of course, last season was a slump season, but everyone believed in him before. Jimmy Garoppolo is one of the most overhyped quarterbacks, yes, but he has a ton of hype for a reason, right? People believe in him. He didn't perform in the big games, but he is a solid quarterback. And Russell Wilson, my goodness, that's a bad man. That division to me, especially considering the age, that's what I'm considering as well. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, those are old farts. Matt Ryan's on his way there, and Teddy Bridgewater, nobody's afraid of. I think, every quarterback here is certainly better than Teddy Bridgewater. And Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are about to put on a show next season to be some of the elite. So, right now, I think the NFC West has the toughest division, and then I'd put the NFC South after that. But NFC West is going to be a great division for fantasy football, just so you guys know, if you haven't heard. And so is the NFC South. I don't know about Teddy Bridgewater, but Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff. I don't know about Jimmy G. I'll keep Jimmy G out of it. He's on a super run-heavy team. Doesn't put up the most fantasy football points. And Russell Wilson, though, very, very solid picks for fantasy football. Now, at number 3, here's where he has the AFC West. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the AFC West is at number 3 solely because of Patrick Mahomes. Derek Carr, while he had a great season last season, he's going to have a big year for the Raiders to do anything special. But Tyrod Taylor, Justin Herbert, those are not threats. I mean, come on. Drew Lock, we have yet to see what he's going to become. There's a lot of speculation. But for Tyrod, he's nothing special, and Justin Herbert hasn't played it down in the NFL. So to have the AFC West here, number 3, to me seems a little bit high because these are not established figures yet in the NFL. We're honestly basing this only off of Mahomes and Derek Carr, and it's mostly because of Mahomes. I understand Mahomes is amazing, but does he make the entire division difficult? No. All right, so the AFC West shouldn't be here. Not the best division for fantasy football, unless you know that right now. Unless Drew Lock has a crazy breakout season. At number 4 here, which I think should be at number 3, the AFC North. Lamar, Joe Burrow, Baker, and Ben. Now, Lamar and Ben are the 2 solid guys here. Baker, I'm giving him the, benefit of the doubt that last year was a fluke and he can return to that rookie season form. Joe Burrow hasn't played down the NFL, yes, but he's much more highly touted than a guy like Justin Herbert. And if he's, we can believe what he's going to be, that's going to be great. But I won't even add him into the mix because, I just did that, for the AFC West. I think the 3 of Lamar, Baker, and Ben, that makes it very, very difficult. I think, I only have the 2 here in the AFC West that I think could make it difficult. Drew Lock, Tyrod, and Justin Herbert, I don't know enough about yet, right? So I think the AFC North takes the 3 spot over the AFC West just by a smidgen. At number 5 here, the NFC North, and no, it has nothing to do with Mitchell Trubisky because he is a free win every time teams are playing him. The Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins. Yes, that is a very difficult division to be in. I honestly think that could be tied with the AFC West, honestly, for number 4 because Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins are very good quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, of course, elite. Matt Stafford, I think he's going to have a huge year next season, and Kirk Cousins is a very serviceable quarterback. It falls off in Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, but Nick Foles, we've seen what he can do. Moving on, the AFC South, this one is really slept on. Because Deshaun Watson, Phillip Rivers, Gardner Minshew, and Ryan Tannehill are all very solid quarterbacks. I think, Deshaun Watson is the one we're talking about being elite, but Phillip Rivers, Gardner Minshew, and Ryan Tannehill can certainly get it done. They can certainly play ball. They're certainly not scrubs. I understand that Phillip Rivers turns the ball over a ton, but he is a good quarterback. Gardner Minshew mania. We saw what he did as a rookie for the Jags with not much help, to be honest. Yes, DJ Chark, Chris Conley, they're good, yes, but they're not, insane receivers. Ryan Tannehill, you know what? I know why the AFC South here. I get it. Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback, but he relies on, Derrick Henry a lot, the play action a lot. So we've yet to see, what he can do truly if he had to carry the team himself. So I actually like that there. But this is just disrespectful, guys. They have the AFC East over the NFC East. Oh, man. I mean, if it wasn't, bad enough being an Eagles fan recently with Brandon Brooks tearing his Achilles, that's just another disrespectful blow. Josh Allen, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tua, Jared Stidham, and Sam Darnold they have over Dak, Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones, and Dwayne Haskins. This couldn't be more wrong. The AFC East is clearly the weakest division for and according to quarterback. And here he even says it. Ahead of the NFC East, ? Yep. Actually, I considered pushing this group even higher up the board than I would have if I knew Tua would start week 1. I mean, come on. He talks about Tua having the skills to be an instant star. Regular readers know how high I am on Josh Allen, the guy who, come on. I think this is just a bit ridiculous. If you're going to talk about, Josh Allen's potential for why the division is hard, that makes no sense, right? So he hasn't done it yet. So it would make sense that right now the more difficult division is the division where guys have done things like Dak, like Daniel Jones, like Carson Wentz. Dwayne Haskins is, of course, the weak link. But are you telling me that Jared Stidham is somehow better, or he's not is somehow better than Jared Stidham? He would be equal or worse. Sam Darnold's nothing special either. Just Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott alone outweigh all four of these quarterbacks. And Tua has an asterisk because he hasn't played yet, and we have yet to see if he's healthy. That's completely wrong. The NFC East should certainly be above the AFC East. But other than that, I am fine with it. So you have your order there. If you do my order, we would have the NFC West first, the NFC South second, the AFC North by a tiny bit third, the AFC West fourth, and honestly, I'd have the NFC North a bit tied with the AFC West for fourth, but we'll have them at fifth, AFC South sixth, NFC East 7th, AFC East dead last by a mile. Don't know what this guy's talking about, but he is the expert. Alright, with that, guys, we'll go into our break, and when we get back, our final segment. Stay tuned, guys.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Today's show analyzing yet another article because this one is very interesting and almost seems pretty blasphemous if you ask me. This is a list written by Patrick Walker ranking the top 10 running backs for next season. This is like going into next season, and this list I have problems with. I'll just read you the numbers and then give you my takeaways, okay? At number 10, Dalvin Cook. Number 9, Todd Gurley. Number 8, Leonard Fournette. Number 7, Chris Carson. Can you see why I have issues with this yet? Number 6, Joe Mixon. Number 5, Nick Chubb. Number 4, Derrick Henry. Number 3, Saquon. Number 2, Ezekiel Elliott. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey. All right, I'll go through right now, and I'll say I agree with Christian McCaffrey at number 1. He is, like he said himself, an offensive weapon. He's not just a running back. He's a wide receiver. He's awesome catching the ball, running the ball. His team gets him the ball no matter what, and he delivers. That I have no problem with. Christian McCaffrey is an absolute stud. But right now, to me, how you have Ezekiel Elliott over someone like Derrick Henry right now doesn't make any sense. To me, Derrick Henry should be over Ezekiel Elliott number 2 because Derrick Henry single-handedly carried his team to an AFC Championship appearance. There is no other running back in the league right now, not even Christian McCaffrey, who could have, because he didn't do it. He didn't do it, right? The Panthers didn't get anywhere. Who can carry a team like he did to just bulldoze through people, slowly milk the clock, take over a game by himself, average, he had the most yards, I think he had the most rushing touchdowns off top of my head. He was at over 100 yards per game. In the playoffs, he rushed for 182 yards and then 195 yards. Those were against the Patriots and the Ravens. Of course, the Chiefs shut him down. But, to me, it's just insane how you put Zeke over a guy like Derrick Henry. Now, I'll say this. I understand why Zeke is over Saquon because Zeke actually had a good year last year. Yes, it was quieter than usual, but right now, I would take Saquon Barkley over Ezekiel Elliott. I think Ezekiel Elliott should be 4th on this list. I don't agree with him being a top 2. I think Saquon is a top 3. I like him at 3. But I would make the case for him to be 2 and Derrick Henry to be 3 because Saquon Barkley can catch the pass. Derrick Henry is not a pass-catching guy, and I think, being that all-around complete guy would have put someone over, like Saquon Barkley, over Derrick Henry, but that's just me. Ezekiel Elliott should be probably number 4. So I would go, let's say, Christian McCaffrey, 1, Saquon, 2, Derrick Henry, 3, Ezekiel Elliott, 4. Now, this has nothing to do with fantasy football, too, guys, so don't get that wrong. Number 5, he has Nick Chubb here, and honestly, I don't know if, I disagree with that because Nick Chubb is certainly immensely talented and on the team that, struggled a lot, but he still posted, I think, almost 1,500 yards last season. So very, very talented. I don't mind him at number 5. I do mind Joe Mixon at number 6 here when we haven't even spoken about a guy like Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara didn't even crack the top 10. I understand Joe Mixon has a lot of talent and he's on a horrible team, but for me to say that right now, he is better than Alvin Kamara all around, I don't know, right? And I understand Kamara's stats weren't eye-popping last season, but he did have 4.7 yards per carry and 81 receptions, right? So he's getting a ton of touches, and he's an all-around guy who can do it. He can get 20 touches a game. It doesn't all have to be rush attempts. And I think Alvin Kamara should be on this list over a guy like Joe Mixon, a guy who's on a horrible team. It's hard to even see what he's fully made of yet because his line, his whole team, it's just not very good. So, to me, just putting Joe Mixon here in the top 10 over someone like Alvin Kamara kind of blows my mind. All right. At number 7, he has Chris Carson, which feels strange, which actually, like he mentions here, but Chris Carson is very talented. But I wouldn't put him here because he can't stay. I don't think he's one of the top 10 running backs. I think he'd be closer to 10. That's all I'm going to say. I think he'd be closer to 10. And also he needs to stay healthy. If you told me Leonard Fournette or Chris Carson, I would take Leonard Fournette, right? So Leonard Fournette is at number 8 behind Chris Carson. And I want to talk about this. Todd Gurley at number 9. That one to me is the very surprising one because Todd Gurley for a lot of people is just not the same as he used to be, right? Certainly, not who he was a couple years ago. And I understand, the reason why people are writing him off, and I understand this guy says, basically don't sleep on him. But how can you say that Todd Gurley is over someone like Dalvin Cook? Dalvin Cook is number 10. Dalvin Cook needs to be above Todd Gurley, above Leonard Fournette, and above Chris Carson. Listen, I understand Chris Carson had more yards than Dalvin Cook last season, but he's on probably, the second run heaviest. I think, I wanted to check. He's also on a very, very run heavy team. Let me check. And I think this Dalvin Cook is more explosive. Now, I understand with there are the health concerns, but to me, Dalvin Cook is he's an outstanding running back. You guys know for fantasy football he's outstanding. But to put him behind those guys, I think is sort of blasphemous. I think Dalvin Cook deserves a little bit more respect here. And this list is just a little bit, just felt like a lot of hot takes. If I'm going to be honest here, to have Dalvin Cook at number 10 and to have, Alvin Kamara not even make the top 10 sort of blows my mind. And, he's not going off of, top 10 rushing yards, right? Because for that matter, Josh Jacobs would be in this top 10. Josh Jacobs was an outstanding back last season. He got hurt. He made his case for Rookie of the Year. A lot of people thought he should have won Rookie of the Year. And of course, if he's going off of rush yards, Lamar Jackson's one of the top 10 running backs in the league, which honestly, had he put Lamar Jackson in this top 10, I would have accepted that over, Joe Mixon over Dalvin Cook. Several spots over Dalvin Cook. To me, that's pretty insane. So that is that list, guys. Do with it what you will. Certainly not, in the correct order for fantasy football that I would take. Definitely taking Saquon second if I'm not getting McCaffrey. Derrick Henry I like at number 4 for fantasy football. I might take Zeke over him because of the pass catching ability. Nick Chubb at 5. Joe Mixon, man, I don't know, because I'd take Alvin Kamara much, much earlier because of his all around ability. And the rest, man, Dalvin Cook, you saw what he could do, guys. Yes, he missed time, with hamstring problems, but he can. I believe that he's going to work on staying healthy. He's absolutely explosive, dynamic, and a force to be reckoned with. So for me, he should have been much higher on that list. But with that, guys, I want to thank you for listening to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good social media. Leave comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you love. Let us know what you hate. Of course, let it be constructive. Don't be mean, guys. And I want to say stay safe, guys. There's a lot that's been going on. Of course, we'll talk about it when it needs to, whenever things happen and, I feel it needs to be spoken about. And, I hope you have a good rest of your night, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep practicing social distancing, and we'll see you here next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.